Hey, good afternoon, BGG. Good afternoon. This is Rob. Hey, we're really excited today to have Miss Jobina Martin on, the CEO, and she is a business coach, a HR professional. She's had history and she's a professional life coach. She's got a lot to say. She is really a powerhouse. I met her probably about a couple of weeks ago, and man, she was just a very interesting person that has powerful energy. So without further ado,
Thank you.
I'm going to say hello, Jabina.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Rob. I appreciate it.
No, thanks for coming on. Kim wanted me to make sure that to let you know that she's sorry that she couldn't be here today, but she's a little under the weather. So we're going to wish her well,
Yes.
and hopefully she's back on Thursday. So thank you for coming in, and man, let's talk about the CEO. Let's talk about the CEO. Let's first start. Let's start on business, because
Sure.
I think when we first got had our conversation, you were talking about business and the importance of things for business owners now. So go ahead and talk to me about that.
Sure. I was just sharing with you just with my HR background and some of the laws that are changing. I think that impact small business owners more than anything, which is how they've minimized the number of employees required for certain compliances. So for sexual harassment, for workman's comp, things like healthcare, and even offering a retirement or 401k to your employee. Those laws have come down to some of them where you only have to have 5 employees in order to have to offer those services to employees. And so I think a lot of times we don't do that out of fear of not knowing what that looks like on the other side. And it's not that bad, right? But what
Mhm.
it does is if you go through the process, at least you know where you sit, right? At least you know what is to come. And there's things like just, so for example, with healthcare, a lot of employers don't offer healthcare because they think of the cost and the expense of it. But there's penalties that are involved if you don't. And most employees at this stage have other options. And so the law says you just have to offer it to them, right?
Right.
And so we assume sometimes that offering to them puts us in an obligation. And private healthcare is a little bit more costly than what employees can get to this from the state. So offering just means getting a waiver and saying, hey, I'm compliant, right? Or taking the time and doing the sexual harassment conversations with your employees as an education perspective. So that way you don't have to deal with the sexual harassment charges if one of your employee is in violation. You've done
Right.
your part, you've done
Right.
your due diligence. And what I'm suggesting is that we get up from behind the fear of making good business sound decisions and making them based on knowledge and education.
Yeah. So on that note, you're offering a number of services right nowadays to small business owners, entrepreneurs, and so what's the hottest thing on the market right now? What's the big demand?
Yeah, I think the big demand now is really understanding how to grow a business, and what has happened, I think, is that we've gotten to this survival mode of a business, right? If this business can at the least take care of my family, pay my general bills, and
Right.
sometimes by putting that basic energy out, right? And one of the things that I think if I go back, just really compassionate about is the mindset of building a business, right? Like having a mindset of success, assuming that you're going to be successful in any venture that you do. And a lot of times we go in, like I suggested, just wanting just enough to get us over the top,
Right.
right? And that's it. That's what we end up happening because that's where we set our goals. And
Yeah.
we've been promised abundance, and I just don't think that we live into what that looks like.
No, I agree with you. I think both of us have in common is the coaching thing. And one of the things that I've seen in particularly over the last 2 years, again, is people not planning, right?
Mhm.
So what we do when we work for other people, we put a forecast together. Okay, here's my plan, and people are going to hold you accountable for that forecast, right? We've been there before, right?
Mhm.
Hey, I got to make my number, got to make, and But when it's on us, we don't see that same level of effort. And
Absolutely.
and when we're coaching, a lot of times we'll say, okay, what do you expect to do this quarter? Well, they don't have enough stuff planned. So part of it is really planning. And what I'm looking at right now, and I'll come back to you, is looking as the toughest for me, the toughest part of the year is coming up right now. Getting through that July, August, September, that Q3 is critical because we know Q4 we're going to most businesses do pretty good in Q4 closing the year out. That Q3 you got to have enough there. So go ahead and talk to me.
Yeah, I think too, when we do this business planning, we have to remember that most of us are first generational business owners. And so a lot of that planning concept and the benefit of it, we're just foreign to it. You know, you do better when you know better. And I think that we just don't know that we can do better sometimes, right? Because we are the entrepreneurs of, you know, building businesses and legacy wealth, right? And understanding how even for a small business owner, that having a disability policy for you, one, it gives you a peace of mind. So that way, if something happens to you, then you know that you have some kind of income coming in, right? And a lot of times, if the boss doesn't show up, nobody's doing anything, right? And so it creates a cycle of lack of healing, because as we all know that in order to heal, you have to be healthy. So if you're sick at home, concerned about one, your business, concerned about then how is that money going to come back to me, right? So I can take care of my family, and just having an insurance policy, right? Having a disability policy that says, hey, in hard times as a business owner, I have the same rights to get a little bit of money coming in. So that way I can offer a little bit of reprieve for myself.
You know, it's funny you say that because I remember one as being a single dad and being, you know, hey, I was the breadwinner. I had to make sure that I'm taking care of not only myself, my sons, and the lifestyle. And just having that disability policy, knowing that, hey, everything was going to be good. And I like to go out here and ride snowmobiles and everything. And it was one of those things that you had to have. The other piece is, for a lot of business owners don't really understand, is that key man policy, having the key man or key woman or key person policy nowadays. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, even when we think about, a lot of business owners partner with their spouse, right? And so utilizing policies like that to balance. And once again, sometimes it's not even using the policy, it's that peace of mind. So that way we can get, and I think for me, part of my passion is being more proactive than reactive, right? And I think a lot of times we're more reactive to things. Versus, you know, having a business coach or a mentor like you and I, it kind of gives those new small business owners someone to talk to, right? Not necessarily run the plays. You know, Phil Jackson didn't tell Jordan what to do.
Right.
He just gave him a little bit, hey, you know, if you do this or try this as an option, but the game was his. Right. And I think that's the benefit of having a coach in your life. Yeah, just somebody to say, hey, this is what's going on, you know, and we give a couple of options and scenarios and choices that you can pick so you can be proactive versus reactive.
Yeah, I love that because there's a few additional people. I'm going to call one out, Katie. Shout out Katie McClendon, who's a business coach. And she wrote a book about being an imperfect coach. And when I read her book and I started really thinking about that, you know, there are different ways of coaching, but for most people who come under, you know, our tutelage or our wisdom or whatever you want to call it, right? At the end of the day, they have to understand this. The final decision is yours, right? We're going to give you good, strong advice. And that advice may be based upon, hey, either we've already been down that road and either succeeded or failed, or it's just not a good practice. And we're going to let you know. Bottom line, if you still want to go over that rickety bridge, go right ahead. You know, but when you crash, don't call me and say, oh, I didn't know, because you did know, but it was a choice that you made.
Yeah. Or even, you know, taking that, because I think look, this is my third time at entrepreneurship, right? and I figured it out kind of this time, right? But if I look back on those other two times, I probably learned more those other two times, right? From that trying and then finding opportunities out of that. I don't believe we ever fail when we try, right? It's not cliche, it's the truth, right? The effort is more. We're not supposed to be perfect. We're just supposed to do our best. Right. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in the perfection of action versus just giving it everything you have. Right. And I think that's what we miss in just giving effort, and effort will take you a long way because that effort is going to push you over the hill when you get tired because you've already built up all this wonderful momentum to get up the hill. So by the time you get to the top, right, you have a little bit for you. So that way you don't plateau. You kind of keep going forward. May not be at the same rate, but you have enough momentum that keeps you climbing, in an upward bound movement versus plateauing or even going down, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the other part too is, I guess it's once said is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with the team.
Absolutely.
But having a team doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a team of anyone. We got to make sure that the people that are riding with us have the same intent, that have the same amount of commitment and purpose.
Sure.
One of the things I remember early on as an entrepreneur, I had a good friend, but we're still friends now. It's probably, I won't tell you how many years, but it's over 30. And I remember at a certain point, we just weren't, built for that same ride. And it got to a point where he was trusting on his girlfriend and his girlfriend's father. And it's like, hey, you're not doing business with them. You're doing business with me. So I need you to make a decision you feel confident about. So one of the things about entrepreneurship for everybody out there, if you guys are doing if you're just dabbling and thinking about coming into this patch, you got to think about the team that you have. Or if you're going solo, too, families, right? In the financial services, I remember being in that lane. And one of the things we do is, hey, make sure we come and do a house visit, make sure we meet with the family, because, hey, if you're going to be out here spending all this time, is that going to be okay at home, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So those are different things that come up. Tell me about life after, during the pandemic, trying to, out here trying to get the bag and trying to get new clients and things like that.
Yeah.
How did that affect you?
I think it fared well for me because coming in the pandemic, like I had shared with you, I had a lot of momentum,
Okay.
and the challenging part is as a consultant, because that was a season when I was fully in my HR consulting career, right? Is that we're the first ones to go, right? Having a consultant, and we were all living on a high horse, back in 2019. I think we can all say that we were all in a good energy, right? But even my clients, at that time I had, I don't take on a lot of clients. I love soaring. The base of my business is soaring eagles, right?
Okay.
I move pretty fast, and it's just not for everybody, right?
Okay.
And so I take on very specific clients. There has to be a genuine connection there for me, and also a genuine passion for what they do. I can't have more passion for you than your business.
Love it.
Right.
It. Yeah.
And so, I've even had to tell clients, as they come out of that entrepreneurial space or, transitioning from corporate to their own thing, because I do believe if you've done something for somebody for 5 years, you can probably do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And so coming out of that, I've even had to say, well, maybe you should just go back and get a day job. It's because it's not for everybody all the time. Right. And so coming out of the pandemic, I think I had, revved up. I gave my clients about 2 months. We kind of all, and I said, hey, this is not, because I think we all kind of had this, oh, it's going to end soon. And we got right back to sessions. I did free sessions for my clients for a couple months, and none of them missed $1 because it was the momentum. It wasn't just sitting around waiting to see what happened. We were proactive versus reactive to any result that would occur during the pandemic.
Yeah. So as we go now, we're hearing on a daily basis, oh, it's going to be a recession. And one of the things that I took away from the weekend is so many people are starting to say, hey, let's not talk ourselves into it,
Mhm.
right? Because these are different times. What are your thoughts about where we are right now? What do you think about the next 6 months or so?
I think it's all about planning and know exactly where you want to be and having more than one plan. One of the things that we do in my coaching program is we write our business plan in pencil. It, it
Love it.
should it should be changeable, or you type it, right? But it
Hmm.
should be fluid. You should be willing to say, hey, this was a great plan from day one, but it no longer serves where I want my business to go to, right? And being open to that, but really sitting down and being transparent as to how you see that moving forward, having things in motion and connecting. And like you said, having people under you that can support, where you're at. You had asked me earlier about one of the things that I have a lot of challenges with my clients, and especially when you think about solopreneurs, right? People that is understanding at what point does not having employees become more detrimental to you than hiring someone, right?
Yes.
And I've had clients that I've had to say, hey, you're doing great, but if you want to scale, you can't handle the whole thing on your own, right? And then, even with those clients, agreeing to manage their employees, right? They just didn't feel strong with the skill. So I do leadership coaching too, right? And helping you understand how to have those conversations. And so it was a young person, they were very successful in their dynamic, but had
Right.
never had any employees or needed to lead in that capacity. And so I did that. I sat with him. We analyzed employees. I taught him how to do disciplinary actions, because I do believe that is probably the most important structure in an organization, is to have sound, progressive discipline, so
Right.
people know that you're not playing, right? And I think we miss a lot of that. We do a lot of talking, right? But putting someone's behavior in writing changes the effect.
Oh, it does. Yeah. It makes all the difference in the world. It's funny because I have a client situation right now that, because they didn't do that,
Mhm.
and they also didn't hold the necessary trainings, right? I'm getting ready to get a check.
Yeah.
So, but those things are important. The other part, I'll comment on what you said about scaling. Yeah, it's critical. I'm going through it myself right now, right? Having one division of a business and keeping that. When you get to a certain level, okay, we have to add additional horses
Mhm.
to the stable, for lack of better
Yes.
better words, a scenario.
Yes.
Forgive me out there. But the other part is when launching new divisions, take different talent, right? There's only so much that we can do. And when it comes to scaling, there's a book, can't remember the author, it's called Scaling Up. And it goes through all of the things that Google and other folks have done,
Mhm.
hey, when it was time for them to scale. But some of those same things are even for small business, we have to be able to do the little things. They start small as well.
I think the other thing that we tend to do is we don't find SMEs, which are subjects experts,
Yeah.
right? People that, so we have this great, person that we bought in to do one thing, and then we say, hey, now because I'm running thin, I want you to do my social media too. And then frustrated that we don't get that movement. They're not the expert, right? And so I found little ways to add those small little departments that you were talking about, right? There's ways that you can get those little bit of expertise that doesn't break your business, but ensuring that when you have somebody in place to do something for you, and what happens is we charge them with that social media aspect that doesn't get done. So now we're impacting the morale, because dude's like, well, I'm doing my best. I don't know the algorithm of Facebook, but and so when you don't get it, and so it's all those effects and all those little things, even offering healthcare, even if employees don't take it, it's a gesture for them,
Right.
right? Or saying, hey, I have this disability policy for you. That's a gesture for it. That's a relationship. And that was one of the things I loved about being in HR. And the reason why I had to get out of corporate America, the human part of it, that's where it started from. The root of HR is human relations,
Used to
right?
be, at least. Yeah.
It still is in my book, Rob. And I strongly believe that, we're dealing with people, and a lot of times, well, for everybody, we spend more time with our professional relationships than we do with our personal ones.
So that's true. And and part of that, if anybody is at a level of scale, right, and volume with your business, right now, the number one thing I know I've been working on for the past maybe 8 or 9 months is culture. Just
Mhm.
trying to create that culture of, employees feeling happy about what they're doing, feeling confident about, being here instead of me having to go out and constantly looking at how the workforce is churning and we're having to recruit and they're gone, recruit, they're gone. That's too difficult. Don't want to do it. I'd rather spend a little bit more money, a little bit more time caring about folks. Um, so that
And
seems
I think for me, I've been so lucky that I've worked for companies like at the like of Dr. Pepper and Applebee's who have really good culture, right? And
mhm,
that's why they are such sound businesses. And I remember, when you go into the Applebee's headquarters in Kansas, right? And you walk in there, they have dry cleaning. So they pick up your dry cleaning for you, right?
oh, that's
and,
cool.
and they have it, they bring it back to your desk. Or, back then it was you could rent your Blockbuster videos right at work. Or on Fridays, there would be this masseuse that would come around and those are the things that
Right.
I think that we miss from the culture of the workplace. And we're so busy, working that we wear people down, right? We don't give them a sense of balance in the organization. I think we can still do that. And I think we can get, even more productivity by bringing some of those human aspects back to the workplace.
Yeah. And the big challenge, I talked to a colleague today, it, hey, they've checked out of the office. They're still working from home, and it looks like it's going to be that way for a while. So the challenge is, how do we, one, are we going to bring people back, or are we not? And then how do we maintain that leadership level of effectiveness uh, for those remote workers, and really understanding their needs? So those are things.
I think it's the same thing, like what we're doing now. I have a client and I help them facilitate their Christmas party. And there were people that said it was actually better because they were at home. All the employees were there. They were giving gifts and prizes and doing bingo. So we don't have to remove those things. We just have to be a little bit more open-minded and innovative in how we can reintroduce those things for the sake of employees.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you know, I'm loving the energy and what we need to do. I got to get you back on. I got to bring you on for a mastermind. So that way, one, when we have another time with Jobina, and the second thing would be and get you on for a mastermind. You're full of wisdom. I love your spirit.
I appreciate that. Thank you
I
so much.
love. Let me play back a couple legacy builder. I like that stuck with me. Dropping that one out there. So that was really good. And so let's look at getting you back on here within the next couple of weeks, and then let's see about doing a mastermind because you man, you're on fire.
I
And so
appreciate that.
for those folks out there, how they're going to get a hold of you? People are going to want
Sure.
they're going to want to get you.
No, I just love calls. I think that there's an energy. I'm kind of old school. I want to talk to you. I want to feel where you're at. It's part of my gift, right? Just really understanding and allowing people to be very transparent and getting back to the root of where their help needs to come from, not
Right.
what I assume help comes from. So you can reach me at 909-529-4844.
Okay. Is there an email you want to throw out,
I
or,
do have an email. It's
Instagram?
yes, Jobina at JOBINAAYESAH.com.
Wow. How about one more time on that?
Absolutely. JOBINA at JOBINAAYESAH.com.
Okay. And what about any Instagram, Facebook you want to put out there?
Old school, Rob, call me.
I love it. I love it. Well, anyway, I love the time. The time went fast, and man, it's just amazing. And I'm glad you took us up on having this conversation because we didn't really know each other, but I love the energy.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the invite. It's been great. I just have a heartfelt passion, and that's what you're feeling. It's very genuine, and how I see We didn't even get into, that 401k that you have that should be probably an annuity or something. Like there's so many things and layers to building, like I shared with you, just a sense of security. And then also that legacy building. A lot of times, and it is what it is, that because out of our fear, we don't set up things. Even my daughter, real quick, she's 25, has no interest in having children. I said, but will you have them one day? She says, yes. I said, then start now. Those are your babies already. Just because you haven't met them yet, why not start now? Because life insurance is age driven, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
at 26, why not get a life insurance? If you know you want to be married and have children one day, don't wait until that happens. Start that legacy building now. It creates a deeper foundation, right?
Yeah.
So that way you've already set forth for your next generation how that's going to look.
Yeah. And the price
And
only
you can
goes up
use
later.
your life insurance to live as well.
Yeah, absolutely. House down payment, everything else, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, beautiful. So tell you what, next time let's put a frame around it. We'll talk about financial services.
Sounds
kind
good.
of stay in that lane because there's so many different levels, right?
Mhm.
All right. Okay, Jobina. Well,
Well,
look
thanks,
forward
Rob,
to
for
talking.
having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
BGG. Have a great day. This is Rob. We're out.